Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello and welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. This is Gary Wilson, your host. I'm glad to have you back. Hey, if you haven't done so, if you could please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. You're probably on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadios, probably 30 different channels. And we appreciate those subscriptions. It's what makes the world go around. And also be kind and leave a review. That's also what makes the world go around. So we got a great guest today, Joe Robb, and I'll introduce Joe in just a second, but also want to let you guys know some big news. We have, of course, the traditional website, realestatewithgarywilson.com, and you can go on there in the members area and get all the learning you can get. But you can also, if you're not a member, do the free version for 30 days and grab all you can get like it's Christmas time. So make sure you do that. But here's the really big news. The developers just created globalinvestoragent.com. Okay. It's live on the internet now. And the reason we developed that is it's to promote the agents on the team. It's a national team, 28 states, 134 people. All right. And every one of them has been trained to know how to identify, analyze, and negotiate investment properties on and off market. We have access now. This was just in the last 2 years. We didn't have this before because it didn't exist. We have access to all the property data in the country, and every agent has access to all the data in all the country, not just where they live. I mean, everywhere, commercial, residential, it doesn't matter. We know everything about every property and every person. It's a huge advantage for you, the investor. So go to that website, globalinvestoragent.com. Click on profile, and you can search by name, city, state, wherever there's an investor agent. And that's a huge part of your team for success. So in any case, speaking of investor agents, I want to introduce Joe Robb, who I met several years ago in Eugene, Oregon, when I was teaching a class. So Joe, welcome aboard, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
It's good to have you. And I know you're busy. You're an electrician. You're a real estate agent. You're an investor. And in other words, that equals entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs are usually really busy. so I appreciate you taking the time to be here. If you wouldn't mind, Joe, this is going to be a great one because there's a lot of folks out there, just like you when I first got started. I'm trying to do three things too, and they're trying to break through that barrier to get to the next step. But I want people to know who you are first, because you're a pretty awesome dude. Would you mind just taking a few moments and give everybody a little bit of your background, and then we'll jump into some meat and potatoes,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess I like to start off all the way back that I was raised in a blue collar family. My dad was a logger. My mom did payroll for Western Beverage here in Eugene. And so my dad, for me, it was just always knowing that work hard and you'll always be the last guy on the job site. They'll fire you last if you work the hardest. And, I think it's just the whole fact that, you work hard for X amount of years. I got my pup here, so he's all in my business right now. But you work hard for X amount of years, and, you go to work, you do this, and then you get your family, and you just have this blue collar way of life. And that was all that I knew. And so what I began to understand is, the second I got out of high school, I knew I did not want to do any more school. I didn't care for all of the books and all of the learning stuff. So I just wanted to go do what my dad was doing, some physical work to make money. And so I jumped into the mills and I started working in a steel mill. And then shortly thereafter worked in a plywood mill. And one of the biggest turning points, we were talking about before we jumped on here is that talking about kind of leveling up through life and getting yourself to a place that you can have financial freedom. And I saw an electrician. My glue mixer went out when I was mixing glue at the plywood mill, and I saw an electrician go over and he swapped out the fuse, put the fuse back in, shut the box, give me a thumbs up. And I said, wait a second, come here. I want to do that. Like, I know he's making more money. I know that he's not working as hard. So just continuing to level up and, fast forward, I became an electrician within 6 months. And did that for 16 years up until about 3-4 years ago when I became a real estate agent. I just wanted to continually get myself to a place of closer to, financial freedom. I like to call it choices. And then became an agent. I met you in my first year as an agent, so that a few years ago, and really knew that there's another niche just besides, calling up your friends and family and, for lack of better terms, bugging them and trying to see if they can get you a deal, that you can actually, find off-market properties and be able to work with, clients that are looking for that type of thing. But I guess one of my little niche as an agent is being able to walk into a listing, so to speak, and there needs to be a bunch of things done. And I've been in the construction world for over 16 years, and be able to come in there and bring in a crew and clean the place up and make it look really beautiful before I list it. And I think that's kind of one of the little niche. And as a matter of fact, I've actually flipped two here in the last year with that same scenario. So yeah, a little bit about me.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you hit on a couple of key points there. Most entrepreneurs don't start off as entrepreneurs. They start off in conforming to what we've been taught and observed as we grew up, which is go to school, get a good job, and do that for 40 years and retire. But entrepreneurs, that's not good enough. We want more out of life, man. We had this zest for life. We just get up, be in action, right? Always be moving, always be learning. So you that natural ability served you when you were probably, I'm sure you probably worked for somebody else at first, maybe as an apprentice, and some electricians go on and start their own business. The ones that do that and want to stay in the business do that. But really, then you got your license, became a realtor, and then that's when you and I met. And the cool thing about what you bring to the table with your construction experience and background is, obviously it helps owner occupants, because you can say, hey, this is just my opinion, but I've come from this background in construction, and this house is a great house, but really, I can tell by the looking in the basement, the plumbing should be upgraded. The plumbing's old plumbing, or the wiring should be upgraded. Things like that. That's a big value add. And really, what's really cool is when you work with flippers, they're very cost conscious. I mean, I've flipped bunches of homes, and I know you're on that track too yourself. It's all about profit and loss. You've got to have enough profit there to justify the deal, and you got to really keep expenses in check, but provide a good product at the same time. So you bringing that to the table, Joe. Anybody listening here, I'm telling you, you check out Eugene, and here's why. There's a website you can look at for all the listeners. Write this down or just remember this. It's called howmoneywalks.com. Howmoneywalks.com. It uses IRS tax filings to track the migration of money, not necessarily people, but money. And right now, money is pouring into Oregon, mostly the below Portland. Portland's taken a few lumps over the years, and it'll bounce back. Don't worry. But Regina is, man, you're talking the heart of the country. Salt of the earth. It's the kind of place people want to live and raise their families, which means it's the kind of place you should be investing in, either with rentals or flipping homes. And Joe's the guy you want to talk to because he knows the business. I know it because I taught him. Not only that, he's actually doing it. Okay. So in any case, Joe, let's go a little bit forward here. So most of your real estate business, I'm sure like mine was in the beginning, was more traditional owner occupants looking to buy and sell their own homes. But when do you have any investors now you work with, or anyone you can think of in the past, and can talk about one of the transactions, and to change the name to protect the innocent, so to speak? But give us an example or a case study if you don't mind.
Well, and investors, when they're coming into this area, there's a lot of flipping going on. There's a lot of nice little spots here in Springfield. There's some spots in Eugene, and investors are going through there. There's quite a few wholesalers in this area. I'm actually sitting down with a few of them this week and going to talk about some of that. Really, my biggest thing is I'm just getting started in this. Like I said, I met you a few years ago, and real estate is something that it takes a little bit to get yourself going if you don't have some good mentors. So this year was the first year that I'm really getting going and really getting some traction and actually getting quite a bit of people, looking out. One thing I do like to say is that for me and for the things that I've been learning is that, it's best to do it first to gain the recognition rather than try to get somebody to recognize you before you do anything. So that's why, as you well know, I'm flying out to Texas here on Friday, and we're going to be looking at an investment property there. It's absolutely beautiful. You got more bang for your buck when you go to some different states sometimes. Right now, I just looked this morning, a fourplex came on the market here, and it needs a ton of work. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to put it out there to investors and let them know, hey, this is it. And like you were saying, Gary, I do have quite a bit of that construction background, so I can walk through a property and I can within a $10,000 hit, depending where we're at, but a $10,000 mark, I can tell you roughly about what it's gonna take to get this to a good either sale or burst strategy, right? Buy, remodel, rent, and refinance. So. Yep. And then repeat. I like to add the extra R on the end and then repeat that. So I'm just getting started in that. And I guess the case study that I have is me, going in and doing that. I just did one. It was a double wide manufactured home. It was a complete gut. I had a client reach out and say, hey, I just want to offload this thing. And so I was very nice. And I helped him out and said, hey, give me the keys for 30 days, instead of just giving it to you, I'm going to make you, and I made him $70,000 in 45 days. Nice. And I put some, 35 in my pocket as well. But, just as something like that, I'm willing to help people. And this, I think that's, again, where my niche is at, Gary, is that, if somebody is, looking to buy in the area, I have access to those properties. As well as if somebody's looking to sell in the area and they don't want to do anything, they just want to get the most, I'm willing to come in, get their place to where it's going to sell for the most amount of money, net the most amount of money, and help them along the way too. So I'm most definitely going to be jumping in with you and leveling up and finding these off market flippers for sure. Got to get back in the game.
Yeah. Well, Joe, you'd consider it lifetime membership. You're an honorary member. You've got the spirit and the heart and the attitude. And I tell you, for everybody listening, when you find somebody like Joe and you have him on your team, I promise you're going to excel. I always tell people, give me 10 Joes, and we'll outperform any other team with 100 other people, But so on that, it's interesting. You mentioned the double wide. See, most people think of flips as, it's got to be the bread and butter, 3-bedroom, 2-bath rancher, or a 4-bedroom, 2-bath colonial, that kind of thing. But it's not necessarily true. I've seen people flip all kinds of things. We actually flipped a 15-unit building one time. You think, well, why wouldn't you keep it? And the answer was, it was such an unbelievable, capital gain on the sale. It was like, it's hard to pass that up, man. It'd take us years to gain that through rents. So, but the double wide. Let's walk through the steps. So you, how did you identify it? Okay. Take us through the financial analysis, to the physical analysis, right? Sure. And then the actual, rehab itself, and then eventual. So if you don't mind, an eventual sale. Yeah. So how did you? Let's start. How did you actually locate the thing?
So my lady is a financial advisor, and her mentor, the one that got her started with financial advising, reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a friend. He just needs to offload this thing. He just wants to sell it and get the money out of it. Can you help him? And I said, absolutely. And he's like, it's a piece of junk. it's just something that he just wants to sell. And so, I honestly was thinking I was just going to go over there, put this thing on the market, and just kind of offload it for him. When I walked in, it was in unbelievable condition, something that's not sellable. You couldn't finance it. It would literally be something that I would sell to an off-market investor. Well, I happen to be one of those. So I just said, I told him, I said, hey, so there's no way that we're going to be able to sell this. Again, if you want to let me take over, no money out of your pocket, I'll finance the whole thing. And the only thing you got to do is pay the bills for 30 days or 45 days, I think is what it actually took to close it for 45 days. And I'll net you a pretty good profit. So I brought in another contractor friend of mine, and he has a crew of 5 people. And I went through. So he owed $70,000, because we're going to talk about the financials. So he owed $70,000. When I looked at the comps in the area, at the bottom, as long as I put this thing together well, it would be $235,000.
Wow.
So I knew that I had a lot of room to play with, and I knew that it was going to take 75,000. It was a complete gut. The walls were that old, the old sheeting. So I had to mud those and texture those. And I'll make sure to share some pictures with you after this. But and then, I mean, the kitchen was out, the bathrooms were out, everything was done. We actually had to lay 3/8 plywood over the entire flooring, because the flooring itself, people before had cut out the floor and did a bunch of stuff. So we had to make sure it was a nice solid floor before we laid life-proof flooring over the entire floor throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, gut out, brand new cabinets in, countertops. I bought all new appliances. We did a brand new deck out front, spent about $2,000 on the outside. It was completely trashed. So I brought in a great friend of mine to do the exterior. And I didn't touch much on the outside, because that would have pushed me. That would have pushed that number and just made it not really worth it. Again, time and money. I think we probably would have been in with fixing the siding, just fixing it and not replacing it. We probably would have been in another 10, maybe 15,000 that we didn't need to spend. And I knew that by looking at comps in the area, that I'm going to provide the best home in this area by far on the interior that anybody's ever around in this neighborhood. And then you go ahead and fix the outside at your leisure, and it's in the middle of winter. So there's no reason to try to put this together. So for me, it was bring it in. I knew, like I said, I knew I was going to spend roughly, 65, right around there, labor and cabinets and countertops and everything included. I was probably going to be about 65. And I think that's what I hit without double checking my numbers. But I knew that left quite a bit of room to put some money in his pocket. I think I put about 70 in his pocket. And like I said, about 35 in mine. And my contractor made, I cut him a $15,000 check every week, because he came in and I told him he had 21 days, 3 weeks to get this thing done, and he did, and he got it done. So
nice.
Right Way Builders, I'll give him a plug. My buddy Bob Goggin there. They did a really good job. I've used them for multiple projects and just like that. And I have another one coming up here in a couple of weeks too, which is a listing that needs a lot of work to get it to where it needs to be to sell it. Yeah. I like to say there's 2 O's in real estate. When somebody opens the door to that house, they go, "Oh," or they go, "Oh," and you don't want the second one. So, I really need to make sure that everything in that house, when somebody comes in, I want to sell it in 8 hours. I want somebody to come in, and I want somebody to come in and say, "Okay, so where are we at? I want to put an offer in. Do we, we got to put this escalation clause in, please." So it's, that flip that taught me a lot. I think we always learn with each and everything that we're doing. It was all new plumbing, all new electrical, and it turned out really well.
Wow. So that was Right Way Builders.
Right Way Builders. Yep.
And Bob
Goggin.
Okay.
Yep.
Bob Goggin. You guys remember that? But he just got a big bonus, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Well, I'm glad to do it. I have this whole belief in keeping things local and supporting your neighbors, who, especially if they're business owners themselves. I mean, go buy local. There's a great organization, I think it's called Independent We Stand. I know the guy that's the director of marketing for it, and he travels all over the country helping small businesses and promoting them, and as part of a great network. But so in any case, so back to you. So this house, what amazes me is you're the first one I've ever had you on that flipped a manufactured home. And I know a lot of people don't think of that, because they're thinking, well, they don't really appreciate much, do they? Well, clearly the thing definitely appreciated. I mean, my gosh, you bought it. You had a debt for 70, and then 65 on the remodeling. That's 135. Now, what was the final actual sale price? If you're allowed to disclose that,
$255,000.
$250. Good Lord, $120,000.
$20,000 over asking for it.
So beautiful. 120 off of 135. You guys do the math. That's about as good a flip as you ever are going to hear about. So never. Here's one of the things that I want to emphasize to people is, in the game of real estate investing, you have to always be out there analyzing properties. Think of a baseball game. Does a batter swing at every pitch? Of course not. But you have to be at the plate receiving the pitches to analyze the pitch. You got to keep analyzing properties. Yeah. And you swing at the ones that look like a good deal. Are you going to hit every single one? Absolutely not. You're going to get beat out sometimes. But the ones you hit, you're going to get either a single, double, triple, or a home run. If you're really lucky, you get a grand slam home run. And this would definitely qualify as a grand slam freaking home run.
Yeah. So, I mean, the numbers worked, right? I mean, we always talk about the numbers, and when I got done running the numbers, and I ran the numbers for cabinets and flooring and vanities and, the painting and the cleaning and the exterior, and I put it all together. I mean, I don't think I was off more than 5,000, 7,000 maybe. And that was, I think that was kind of labor, a little bit of extra labor. But you got, we always leave that buffer in there for that, but it's still, even if I'd have missed by 15,000, it still made sense to do it.
Okay, cool. Hey, did you happen to take pictures? I mean, you don't have to show them now because obviously this is a podcast. But all right, you and I need to talk some more because I'm gonna help you build just build a simple web page out of that. Awesome. And help you promote yourself. You'll have people coming out of the woodwork wanting you to be their dude on the agent side, and you could even take on the role as like a consultant, and that's a separate in addition to commission, Joe. So you can. So this will really, you'll be the man in Eugene. I guarantee it.
I love it. That sounds great.
Yep. I mean, that's a great, and you got a great remodeler. It's and the name too. I mean, Bob Goggin. How much more American can you get it than that? I mean, and I'm sure he's probably salty leader too.
Yeah. He's got a big old beard on him and everything. He's just a real hard working guy, and that's one thing that I demand is that when you come in and if you're a laborer and you get in there and he's super talented as well. Let me go ahead and say that. But just getting in there and getting it done and just having that, that go attitude and that win attitude. So it was really, really good.
Nice. Okay. So 255. Now let's talk about the sale itself. So you get the property done. It's ready to go. What were your steps in marketing? And I'm going to preface it with this: some states will let you do these things and some won't. But what we used to do is, we would actually publish, photos and stuff, and we would put a listing out there in advance of it being ready, and then put in the pictures. Update. Here's pictures. Coming soon. 3 weeks to go, then 2 weeks to go, then 1 week to go. So they see the story being unfolding in front of them. And then we really pump up this auction. We call it auctions, like open house, but we structured it like an auction. And inevitably, 60 people would show up, and it worked every time. So traditionally, though, and that's a technique I'll teach you too if you want. There's a great book on it called something auction or auction. I'll dig it out, share with you. But so tell us about that. And when you put it on the market, obviously you probably put it on the MLS. But what was your strategy there, and what was the result? Like, how many people saw it? How many people made offers? Those kind of things, Okay.
So, really, really unique place just south of Eugene is Cresswell. If and when I move to go kind of get, and it's only 15 minutes south. So here's the cool thing is that you have this small little community. It's 15 minutes south of Eugene. For you guys, I don't know if you know who Phil Knight is of Nike. He ran track and field at the University of Oregon, and that's where Nike started, is in Eugene. So just for a little plug there for Eugene, great place. But so in Cresswell, they have this older lady walks up as we're doing this. We're getting closer to the end of the flip and just about to put on the market. And she says, "Well, can I walk through, because I'm part of the old," I don't remember exactly how she put it, "the old ladies of the neighborhood," something. And I said, "Absolutely, I'd love to show you the place," and walk through. And she was just blown away of how well it looked. And so she said, "Well, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna put this on the community page." And I said, that's fantastic, And so I get the sign in the yard. I put it on the MLS, and I post on Facebook, of course. I got right around 5,000, followers on Facebook. So I put it on Facebook, and then it's just starting to get shared all over the place, all over platforms. I'm getting phone calls left and right about this place, because up here is different down there. our market up here is absolutely insane. We have about 2 weeks of inventory, and let's just say I just wrote an offer on a 760 square foot home. We went, and it was for sale for 289. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath for 289,760 square feet, and we went with an escalation clause up to 310. So that tells you how crazy this market is up here.
Right.
So there's nothing to preface what I'm going to say. There's nothing that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, beautifully redone for $230,000. There's not even remotely close, you know. So it's spread like wildfire. I'm getting phone calls. I got people driving by, you know. So the marketing didn't take much. Again, that community page. I talked to the neighbors. That's another thing that you should always do is talk to the neighbors.
Yeah.
Say, hey, this one's coming to the market, and they're going to tell their friends and their family, and who knows who, right? So, I received 8 offers. Four of those offers were over 240,000. 4 of those offers were over 250,000. I had one offer of 285,000. But the person got cold feet over a heat pump that cost me $110 to get running. So, I mean, but anyways, beside the point, there was just a great traction. I mean, I had it sold. I mean, I left it, you know, saying I'm going to review offers. I put it on the market, I think, on a Wednesday, and I'm going to review offers on Tuesday, just so I could let enough people go through. There was a showing every 30 minutes for 4 or 5 days. So I think there was 60, 70 showings and 8 offers. And, got a real good offer, and I took the backup offer that was beautiful, and we actually ran with that one.
Yeah, boy, everybody listening. So just so you know, Joe, we have listeners from all walks of life. You know, lots of business owners, by the way. So this is a really good podcast for the tradespeople, the people who are in their own practice, dentists, what have you, and we've started attracting a lot of real estate agents in the last year. We rebranded the podcast last year, and now they're listening because a lot of agents get their license because they want to invest, or they know they're getting calls from investors all the time, and they're like, "What do I do? How do I do this?" And it's probably the challenge for every agent listening. Just know this: chances are you're going to get frustrated unless you have some really good training on investing and working with investors. Because the traditional real estate franchises, they just teach you how to help people buy and sell their own homes. It's completely different with investors. The motivation's different, the strategies are different, the methodologies are different. You've got to learn that kind of stuff. And I used to teach that all around. I don't do that anymore. Sorry to tell you that, but the reason is we now have a team of agents all over the country, Hawaii to Maine, everywhere in between. And this is what we do. We're our own category. We corner the market. But in any case, what I'm getting at here is listen to what Joe's saying on the real estate broker side of this thing. I mean, this is textbook, you know, and I would replay this podcast if you're an agent, if I was you, and take notes. And, you know, I don't want Joe's phone to blow up, but you know his name, you know where he is, you know he's a realtor. So
yeah, if you Google Joseph Robb, at least on my computer or whatever, if you Google Joseph Robb, I pop up the top one. Yeah. Maybe there's not a lot of Joseph Robbs out there, I don't know, but there's a little plug there too. So
yeah. Well, now let's talk about this. We got just a wee bit of time here. Sure. I want to focus on the fact that you can invest anywhere these days, guys. You don't have to just invest in one location. In fact, when I first started investing in 1986, it was very localized. You just invested where you were. Nowadays, this is 36 years later. I mean, we have investors that we serve on our team. There are no barriers. I mean, you can invest anywhere you want because we have such an abundance of data, information, and a network of agents all over. I mean, you can be in the middle of nowhere and invest in Houston, Texas. And Joe mentioned at the top of the podcast, he's looking at a property in Houston, Texas, and he's from Eugene, Oregon. I mean, and he's the guy in Oregon to go to, and Eugene, Oregon to go to. So Joe, just if you could kind of touch on that for a second. What led you to the property there, and how do what's your comfort level knowing, you know, of course, you've got all the data you need anywhere, you know?
Yeah, no, that's it. So I have a real good friend that lives out in Texas, and we fly out to Texas for events. I also do network marketing, but different podcast, different day. Again, entrepreneur, right? We go and find the things. So I have a guy that lives out in Texas. And so when I was out doing an event, he came over and he met me. Great guy. I've known him for a long time. And we've eaten some food there. And he says, yeah, and out here in Oregon, we have, I won't get into it too much, but we have a lot of the mandate stuff going on. Not my favorite thing. So there is none. And he's like, yeah, you got to come here. And man, the food is amazing. The people out there are super nice. We have really nice people here in Eugene. It's almost kind of scary how nice people are. They'll just really ask you about how your day's going and everything. So I noticed that same vibe over in Texas. So I started doing my research. There's quite a few different websites, but I go to airdna.co and there is where you can pull the statistics. You do have to pay for each city, or you can pay $800 and get the whole thing for a month or something like that. But I just picked the cities that I want to invest in. And so I looked in his city and realized, and that's Rose City. And I realized that that's a growing place. And there's a few Airbnbs there, and it did make sense, but I just couldn't find the property that made sense. So, I have my Zillow up and I have my AirDNA, and I'm literally looking in neighborhoods with the AirDNA and I'm honing in and I'm trying to find the neighborhoods that make sense with the data that I have. And so I looked in Rowlett, I looked in Arlington. Arlington has some really great, they got the great space. They got the stadiums there. They got Six Flags. They got a bunch of things. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of competition right in Arlington because obviously for that exact reason. So I wanted to go with a niche. I wanted to have a pool because it gets hot. And I put a Facebook post out and said, hey, if you were to go stay in Texas, is a pool necessary or is it not a big deal? And not one single person said that it wasn't a big deal. So then I took that and I threw away and I went straight for pools. And so then that cut out 75% of the houses, made my search a little bit easier to find what I was looking for. And then I didn't, for me personally, out of state, I don't have a team there. I don't have a crew there yet. I know that you can do those things as well, but I wanted to find something that was ready to go. I wanted to find something that it's moved the furniture in, put the decor up, and get all your stuff going, your beds and outside furniture, and so to speak. Yeah. And so I was going, again, side by side, making sure your data matches. If your data doesn't make sense, it doesn't. I do remember you saying when we had the conversation on the phone, when you called me after my post, that you talked about Corpus Christi and you said that you have investors and agents down there. So as a matter of fact, I pulled it up and I looked and I said, man, that makes a lot of sense. However, there's 1,600 Airbnbs in Corpus Christi, but right across this bridge, there's six. There's six in Portland, Texas.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
And they're rented out 70% of the time. And I'm looking at properties that are renting out for about $278 a night. Is actually $275 is the thing. And they don't have a pool. They are not absolutely gorgeous like the one we're going to go look at here on Friday. And so I found the house, and it was the one. There's not another one. I even went over to Corpus Christi and I looked for pools, and I did my research to see if it made sense, because you can stand out in a market, even of 1,600. Don't let that scare you, because if you can stand out and you can bring value, you're fine. You're going to do just fine. So we're going to fly out. We're going to take a look. This property, it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,600 square feet, quartz countertops, quartz floors, absolutely redone. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's got a huge pool in the back, and it's 4 houses down from the beach. So nice. I don't see how that's not, and for $400,000. And if you're talking about in Eugene, that's $850,000 easy.
Yeah, you can't get anything like that. I mean, that sounds like a rare gem. I mean, the coastal, we call the smile. The smile is the coast of the U.S. It's like a big smile.
Yeah.
And wherever you go, I mean, I'm in Inglewood, Florida, right now on the Gulf Coast, and I can guarantee you, anything like that, is probably going to be, $1.5-2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the Texas is interesting because it's a giant coastline. Galveston's not really all that appealing. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody. I've been there. It's a fun place, but Corpus Christi, man, that's a go-to place, So it's pretty, you're not too far from some major metropolitan areas, right? Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and all those people will go there to vacation. People in Oklahoma will go there to vacation, so Kansas. In any case, I think you're going to do quite well on that one, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I know that you hone in on short-term rentals and the traveling nurses a little bit, at least people on your team, if I remember right in our conversation. And so that's why when I tagged you on that house, you saw that house, and I tagged you and I said, what do you think about this one? And you said, yes, triple yes.
Yes.
So that was also a good green light too, because let's just say as an investor, it doesn't always work out, because it doesn't. So let's say my Airbnb idea didn't work out. I know that I can pivot, and I know that there's 5 different medical facilities in Corpus Christi. That's a 10-minute drive. So then I can pivot. If Airbnb, it doesn't work out, then you can turn and pivot. But you don't want to just go all in on, I mean, you do in some situations go all in, but I'd like to have a pivoting point. And that's why I wanted to ping you and say, hey, what do you think about this? If for, traveling nurse is a short term. So, I think we're feeling really good about it. If Thursday, if there's nothing wrong with the property and it looks great, it's going to be a green light for sure.
Awesome, man. Yeah, real critical. So one last focal point here, guys, something that Joe mentioned is, when you're buying properties like that, for shorter term rentals, not traditional families with 3 kids and 2 dogs for an annual lease. But if you're doing short-term vacation type rentals, 7 days and below, or what we call short-term or corporate housing, which is anything under a year, greater than a week or a month and less than a year, if you can attract more than one audience, you're gonna be okay. We love the areas like Orlando. It's a destination area. People go there for vacation, but it's also a business area. People go there for business. So Corpus Christi's plenty big enough. You got enough industry there. Guarantee there's contractors, government contractors. There's technology contractors. Software, hardware engineering, things like that, as well as the medical field. And that is one of the hottest sectors right now. So I think at the end of the day, man, I think you're gonna do quite well. Hey, listen, we got to wrap this. I know we're a little bit over the half hour, but Joe, how can people find you? Do you mind sharing like a website or email, anything like that? Because you're probably
I'll give you my phone number. You can give me a call. Really. JoeRobbRealEstate.com is my website. But my phone number is 541-912-3866. Reach out, pick my brain. I'd love to work with investors, people moving to the area. I've been helping quite a few people move up from California and all over. They're moving into the area. Like you said, I think we're the 3rd most sought after place to move in the United States right now. I like to say that we're an hour and a half from the sand during the summer, and we're an hour and a half from the snow, our mountains. So we're right here in the valley where it's beautiful. I try not to give it away too much because this area is growing so fast that it's like, stop. I like my quiet town, but there's no stopping it.
Yeah, it's a mathematical certainty. That website, How Money Walks, it tells the story. You can look at it at the county level. You can see exactly where people are coming from, where money's coming from. And now to market in those areas. Hey, people in San Jose, California, looking at Eugene, and you can see that on this map. So you tag people, market people in San Jose, and they're going to think of you. It's like, how's this guy know this? And so in any case, great website. Everybody out there, if you're an agent, you should definitely use that website in your efforts. But Joe, man, thanks again for doing this. It's always fun to catch up with you. I'm so glad you put that post out there the other week. And I mentioned my sister was so happy to see that. So my family wonders, like, what does he actually do? So my sister's wonderful, lovely person, and she was the first person to see that. And but it does help. You encourage people, you inspire people on the team. We got veterans doing $100 million a year, and we got brand new people trying to get started. And someone like you, approachable, you're smart, you make good decisions, you do the research, and you really follow that. The big model is this: it's education plus information plus action equals the results. And you've got the discipline and to do that. So thank you for being that role model for so many people.
Thank you. Thank you, because I'll tell this to the tradespeople out there. That's where I came from, so I'll speak to them a little bit. And I know we talked about this, so I'll be brief. But you said education, and the number one thing that I did is that when I was working as an electrician, I put a little earbud in my ear, and I would listen to podcasts for hours, days on end, and get all the knowledge that I could and listen. That's where I found out about airdna.co. That's where I found out it's okay to leave my area. My very first investment property, I'm going to go 2,300 miles away and invest in a property. So for people out there, get the education, put an earbud in your ear. If your job allows it, put an earbud in your ear, listen to Gary's podcast, get motivated, and realize that you can do it. Anybody can, but you've got to go for it. You've got to get the education. You've got to have good mentors, and then you got to have some action behind it. So thanks, Gary. Thank you very, very much for having me on. I greatly appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thanks again, Rob. And thanks everybody for listening. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. You'll find it, Massive Passive Cashflow Podcast on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio. And when you listen to this one, please leave a good review for Rob. This was one of my favorite podcasts. It's one of the best ones. You got the real meat and potatoes from a real guy. You know, he's not an infomercial guru. He's a real person, just like you. Okay. So in any case, we'll see you on the next podcast. And remember, check out globalinvestoragent.com. Especially if you're an agent, okay, and you're looking for a way to build out your business model. And if you're a consumer, that's the place to go to find yourself one of these investor agents. You know, how about that person being on your team? So you guys take care. God bless you and your families, and we will see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.